Hello everybody, and welcome to another Game News Roundup. After the excitement of the last Game News Roundup I did, going over the Switch 2 announcement, going over the Mario Kart 9 details, at least a little bit that we could see, we are gonna go back to some depressing news. If you remember from last year, there were so many articles, so many videos I recorded on layoffs. More layoffs. 10,000, 20,000 people were laid off in the gaming industry last year. It was just crazy, the amount of layoffs in the gaming industry. And of course, there's already been some layoffs this year. I think overall it started off slower than last year. I think. But these are not specifically layoffs, at least the stuff that's from today and last week, that we're mainly going to go over, and plus we'll go over some older stuff real quick. If anyone recalls, PlayStation originally said they were developing 12 live service games, which has kind of come to bit them in the ass, to say the least, because a lot have been canceled as well, to say the least, because we've had 3 canceled last week. Technically, the first one we're going to discuss here is not developed by a first-party studio at PlayStation, but NCSoft was developing a Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West MMORPG. It has reportedly been canceled. This is according to South Korean website MTN, which was spotted by Reset Era. The report from NCSoft basically states that at least 3 games in development at NCSoft, Project Pantera, Project H, and Project J, have all been canceled. And it has been rumored before we heard anything about the names and stuff, for a while now, that Project H was the codename for the Horizon MMORPG. So yeah, there's one canceled game from PlayStation, even though it is Italian development by a third-party studio. The report claims Project H and Project J were canceled at the beginning of the year, and developers are being moved to different teams at NCSoft. And if you're wondering, this Horizon MMORPG is different from the Horizon online game, a multiplayer game, that Guerrilla Games. Guerrilla Games is the developer of Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. They are working on an online live service multiplayer game for Horizon. This is separate from that. That game has not been canceled. It is still in development. As far as we're concerned, there's not any announcement like, oh god, it's been canceled. Nothing yet on that. Honestly, if any franchise that makes sense to be multiplayer, I think Horizon could make some sense to have multiplayer. So, yeah, makes sense. Obviously, Gran Turismo, the last one, is it 7 or 8? Honestly, can't keep track of the numbers. That is still going. More stuff is being added, more race, more cars, more tracks and stuff is available and stuff, and, microtransactions, all that stuff. That is still going strong. But, yeah. So this was announced today, or reported on today, I should say, about the Horizon MMORPG being canceled. And last week, I did not do a video on this last week, but yeah, Sony has canceled 2 unannounced live service games, and it was confirmed, not just reported on, it was confirmed by a Sony spokesperson. So yeah, the 2 games were live service, online multiplayer games that were in development at Bend Studio and Bluepoint Games. The biggest thing is the studios, they're not being shut down. If anyone remembers Concord, that game came out and was shut down 2 weeks later, and the developer of that game has already been shut down. They're closed. They're gone. That is a PlayStation first-party studio that has been closed and is gone. Yeah, and obviously I know Xbox also shut down Arcane Austin last year, and we're closing Hi-Fi Rush developer. I'm having a brain fart of what the name of their studio is. But then that studio ended up being saved in the end, luckily. Another publisher came in and acquired that developer and the rights to Hi-Fi Rush. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about PlayStation specifically and their pretty much failure so far of their live service games. Minus one big hit. Huge hit. That's the thing about live service games. If you have a live service game that's a big hit, and you can keep bringing in money for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years even. Fortnite's been going for how long? Call of Duty? What is it, online or Call of Duty Warzone or whatever? How long these games been going on for? They're bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars. in revenue every year, millions and millions, maybe even hundreds of millions in profit every year, you know? Once you get one big hit. But the issue is Sony was working on 12 live service games. I'm not sure if this counts as one, but potentially the Horizon MMORPG is one. Again, Ben Studio and Bluepoint Games were working on one. We're each working on one. So there's another 2 there. That's 3, potentially. Concord being shut down. And there's, we'll go over this real quick, too. There were reports from about almost a year ago. There was a live service Twisted Metal game in development. That has been canceled. That's 5. This was following the laying off about 900 employees at PlayStation almost a year ago. So there's 5 online games canceled out of 12. And then the also confirmed The Last of Us Online game was also canceled, and that was announced in December of 2023. There's 6 out of 12 live service games that PlayStation was working on have been canceled. Oh, and also, Sony cancels the Final Strike game. Final Strike was also working on an unannounced sci-fi shooter, which has also now been canceled. Although we don't think that was multiplayer. That was multiplayer. I don't think that was live service, but that was also canceled. And also Bungie, last summer, laying off 220 employees, as well as 155 employees of Bungie moving over to Sony Interactive Entertainment. Bungie, obviously the main developers of Destiny, as well as the upcoming Marathon, which is going to be also an online multiplayer shooter. Extraction shooter, I think. And then, of course, Bungie Creative Studios, they have joined PlayStation Studios to support live service games. So a bunch of developers at Bungie have joined PlayStation Studios to support live service games. Moving back to from last week, the Ben Studio and Bluepoint Games, the Sony spokesperson stated that the games were canceled following a recent review. And PlayStation will continue to develop online and single-player games. So there'll still be some online multiplayer games coming out. We'll see. There are other, obviously there's the Horizon Online game from Guerrilla Games. Obviously Helldivers 2 is still going. Gran Turismo is still going. Oh my god. Fair Games is also in development. There's a bunch of others. The Sony spokesperson, Ben and Bluepoint are highly accomplished teams who are valued members of PlayStation Studios family, and we're working closely with each studio to determine what are the next projects. What isn't known is if the cancellations will lead to any layoffs. However, Sony did send a memo to staff that has been acquired and posted online. Sony, in their memo to staff, said Sony is working closely with Ben and Bluepoint to determine what are the next projects and plan to do everything we can to ensure there's minimal business impact, which is making me think there might be some layoffs, but it doesn't sound like if there are any, they're not going to be that big. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Always knock on wood. I mean, it sucks to see layoffs. Oh, and also Jason Schreier of Bloomberg stated that Bluepoint Games, they were developing a live service God of War game. What? I'm sorry, what? God of War, an online multiplayer, to me, makes 0 sense. I can see why that was canceled. Because what? That is odd. If you don't know, I'm pretty sure Bluepoint previously developed the remake of Demon's Soul. Yeah. And Ben Studios' last game was Days Gone, which came out in, I want to say it was 2019 or 2020 off the top of my head for the PlayStation 4. So, yeah, these studios have been working on other games in the past, 4 or 5 years that have now been canceled. Which, considering how long games take to develop nowadays, the next game we're going to see from them will be on the PlayStation 6. Most likely. Or PlayStation 6 and PlayStation 5, because these games will probably be not coming out till 2029 or 2030 with how long games take to develop nowadays. Because, oh my goodness, AAA gaming is getting expensive, and the development time is growing fast. And you're wondering, man, despite that fact, how does Activision release Call of Duty games every year? Because there's 5,000 people, something like that, working on Call of Duty. There's 3 or 4 Call of Duty games in development at any given time. 3 or 4 at any given time. And obviously they're hit and miss. Black Ops 6 has been a pretty damn good success, but last year's Modern Warfare 3 was probably the worst selling Call of Duty game in many years. So, there's that. Whew. So, yeah, again, 3 canceled PlayStation games, 2 from first-party studios. We don't know we don't know exactly what they were, other than the fact that one of them was likely a live service God of War game from Bluepoint. What was Ben working on? Ben Studios working on? We don't know for sure. Just we know it was canceled. It was live service and canceled. And then obviously from today, NCSoft's Horizon MMORPG has also reportedly been canceled as well. As I mentioned, there were 12 live service games in development. 6 have been canceled or taken offline within 2 weeks of release. Concord. So we'll see. And Helldivers 2 been a huge success. I think it's still fairly popular. I mean, not quite as big as it was when it first came out, but it's still bringing in good money for PlayStation, which is probably why they did so many live service games. My issue is they should not have done so many live service games. Because if they didn't, the next game from Bend and Bluepoint could be coming out this year. It would have been coming out probably this year or next year, or even last year, if they did do a live service game. That was the issue. Also, these studios who have no experience in live service games doing live service stuff, I think is a mistake. I think that's the mistake. Some stuff can kind of make some sense, but overall, we're looking at the lineup of PlayStation first-party games, and it's been... Last year, we had Astrobot, and Helldivers 2, which obviously is not a first-party game, but it was published by PlayStation. And this year, I know we have Ghost of Yotai, maybe Marvel's Wolverine, but the amount of first-party games coming out from PlayStation is fairly thin, and this is one of the main reasons. We could have had another game or two between last year, this year, or next year. Maybe, plus maybe 2 more games. You never know. Also, again, like The Last of Us Online being canceled, those developers could be working on something else at Naughty Dog. Or the upcoming Intergalactic, whatever the upcoming Naughty Dog game that was announced at the Game Awards. That sci-fi game that was announced. But anyways, I could keep rambling on. Ramble. But I think we're going to call this one here. If you enjoy these game news roundups, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. I try to do these semi-regularly if there's enough interesting news to cover. Because I'm not going to write up something on every bit of news. And also, all of the VG Charts Game of the Year Awards articles are live on the website if you want to check it out. Spoiler alert, Astrobot was our winner for Game of the Year. And how are the votes broken down on VG Charts? Staff accounts for 50% of the final tally, and the community vote counts for the other 50%. So unlike the Game Awards, where it's 90% of who knows who, and the community's 10%, it's split 50-50 on VG Charts between the dozen or so of us on the staff who do some of the writing, as well as then the community, which I think this is the second biggest year we ever had in the number of votes. I think we had several hundred people coming in to vote. But yeah, if you did vote, thank you so much. So anyways, we're going to end this one off here. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time for some more gaming news. It's depressing as sadly sometimes. Gaming sales figures and other gaming industry information. And yes, keep an eye on VG Charts for Switch 2 announcements and direct news when that comes out in April. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.